This is the third and final deep dive on this trauma infographic. The filter bubbles of trauma, part 1, reminds me that my view of life is always a partial view, that I have to travel completely outside my bubble in order to look back from where I came, question the filters I look through, and take in as many viewpoints as I can to have good perspective. But what if there is a lack of understanding about children and their emotions in all the viewpoints around me? What if everyone believes that children misbehave by choice, that kids always want to manipulate adults and have control over adults? Because part 2 points out adverse childhood experiences impairs emotional development, and then kids' behavior becomes impulsive, reactive, and relationships are difficult. Even very young children will express their strong will to explore and learn, and their strong will to reconnect and rest in relationships. This means freedom and relationships are basic emotional needs. When a child's emotional needs go unmet over time, this child will express their need in demanding behavior, helplessness, sneakiness, explosiveness, or other distorted ways. I think put very simply, unmet emotional needs stalls emotional development and sustains anxiety and aggression even into adulthood. So have a look at some of these symptoms of trauma. Unfortunately, childhood trauma persists like symptoms in a cycle of disease over generations. And yearly global estimates of violence against children in reports since 2016 tell us that at least half of the world's children, about 1 billion, are exposed to violence every year. And scholars like Eisler and Fry blame this on historical remnants of rigid and controlling social hierarchies, which disproportionately have victimized women and girls and still deny them several human rights extended to men and boys. However, it's also true that men and boys suffer in rigid top-down cultures because males are known to perpetrate most of the violent crimes worldwide, especially against other men. And men are hugely overrepresented in statistics on addictions and suicide. So I'm saying that societies were historically structured in rigid hierarchies of a few men in power over all other men and over women and children. It's easy to understand how the few powerful at the top would be disconnected, numb, and unsympathetic to the suffering of everyone else. The cycle is suffering breeds suffering, or hurt people will hurt people. Structures of trauma are intact through history because these are frozen rules and frozen thought patterns, which have been influencing social life for many generations. In fact, across cultures and throughout human history, only 2 very different social structures repeatedly emerged. One is a paradigm of partnership and caring, creating peaceful societies and happy family home life where children are highly valued and protected. So let that sink in, because if we are fooled to believe we have to accept or reject patriarchy, or we have to force matriarchy, then we are blind to the possibilities of partnership paradigms. And the second social structure emerging from history is a paradigm of control and dominating, creating stressful societies and chaotic family life where conflict gets violent and competition is set up to be unfair. So look around. You will see portions of our society and some workplaces and probably even some families where rigid hierarchies of control are apparent. Sociologists describe a trickle-down effect from social structure because children learn partnership and caring within families and schools just as easily as they adopt relationships of domination and control. Partnership propagates trust and strives for equity. So the partnership paradigm is powerfully trauma sensitive, able to crack the ice of outdated rules of society. Partnerships shift our thinking about what is normal to finally take action against, for example, take action against assimilation because it erases ethnicity, action against expansionism because it feigns ownership, and action against social caste because it feeds domination. Without a doubt, domination paradigms are vivid, since child abuse is acceptable in many cultures to the tune of 350 million school-aged kids each year facing corporal punishment at school because it's legal in 90 countries today. Historical structures are social agreements, so they can only persist when society agrees to look away from suffering. Social agreements are like operating systems. They need updates. Societies need updates. Professions need updates. Practices in professions need updates. So have a look at this, this next list about trauma, because trauma is frozen in time and space. This is what we know about trauma. To thaw trauma, schools need updated practices to address child trauma. It's not enough to know about trauma if teachers are not trauma sensitive in the moment, plus able to step outside that filter bubble to see the impact of the school context on an individual child. Knowing about trauma does not equate to healing child trauma, not even close. Action is called for. So we have to step outside our filter bubble and witness the community coming together. Trauma has to be felt as real here and now, no matter when, where, or why trauma happened. And there is powerful medicine for a child or teen in having their victimization acknowledged as violence. Calling out violence reclaims a child's right to be protected. And is powerful for suffering to be witnessed because witnessing reclaims a child's dignity. This is why individual health is a myth. The truth is we depend on a social network. In fact, survivors of natural disasters like earthquakes and hurricanes can be surprisingly resilient simply because the whole community pulls together, helping each other, gathering resources, sifting through damage, and problem solving together. Remember, trauma is cumulative. So mishandling emotions over many years of a child's growing up is going to be the superhighway to mental health issues. Yet if we stay focused on making the pain of trauma go away, then we're stuck in a disease model, tending to work too narrowly on changing the behavior of an individual child or teen. When actually, ACEs are caused by adults who resort too often and too harshly to behavior methods. It is true. Healthy adults are crucial for kids to be healthy. We have to know that we adults are the medicine in attachment environments like schools. Whole school care practices reveal that positive relationships outperform other trauma interventions by over 300%, meaning ACEs are effectively buffered by adults who know how to take care of what to do. Relational practices at school are already scaled to meet the need. If every adult is in charge by being responsive and responsible to kids' emotional needs. So the pathway to trauma healing is a kind of activism in 4 parts. The first is to strengthen interdependence. So we are in a living system, and then we're capable of being sensitive and healing suffering as we work together in that system. The second part is to tap into the synergy of sameness, to promote belonging at the multiple intersections that we cross. Being who we are and living where we do, we are crossing multiple intersections of identity all the time. And the third way is attempting to center ourselves. We center our personal identity in obvious categories like gender, race, or age cohort, but then we graduate to abstract centering, finding how we align in beliefs, attitudes, convictions, or pursuits. And even young kids can do this kind of sameness and centering, decentering. We do this in circle discussions and group problem solving. And a fourth way, at the same time, we need to open that door to decentering by walking in someone else's shoes. All right, so sameness and centering are powerful patterns to be used again and again in classrooms, so kids can flex their sympathy and empathy muscles. The adverse childhood experiences movement, as with all other social activism, proves that social change is not top-down. Protecting kids from ACEs occurs in partnerships, in real time, in shared spaces, with updated practices. Practitioners like teachers and parents are best positioned to design relational practices for schools. This is a professional responsibility to invite parents in also, so there is a good developmental fit for kids in the school environment. So I hope you want to take the time to hear all 3 deep dives on the filter bubbles of trauma. All 3 are posted on YouTube. They crisscross each other, so it can be confusing to listen to one without the others. Plus, these infographics range in scope from details about the emotional experience of trauma to the big picture of social history and how it influences the way we think about childhood suffering today. I encourage you to let me know what you think. There are blogs and other materials you can access on my website, expanding on the deep dive ideas. But emotional development is deep and wide, and that's why I love this topic.